They were loud. They were fast. They were everything America stood for. But today, they're vanishing. The Mustang, the Camaro, the Challenger, all once symbols of freedom, power, and rebellion, are now on life support. So what happened? Was it the rise of electric cars? Harsh government regulations? Skyrocketing fuel prices? Or did we simply stop dreaming in horsepower? This isn't just about cars. It's about a lifestyle, a sound, a feeling. The roar of a V8 engine that once shook the streets and turned heads. A time when your car wasn't just transportation, it was your identity. But now the world has changed. EVs are taking over. Cities are going quiet. And the muscle car? It's becoming a relic of the past. In this video, we're going to break down the real reasons behind the downfall of American muscle cars. From economic shifts to changing car culture, from corporate decisions to global trends, we're uncovering it all. And by the end, you'll understand why these legends fell, and whether there's still a chance for them to rise again. Strap in, this one's personal. Let's rewind to the 1960s and 70s, the golden era of American muscle cars. This was more than just a chapter in automotive history, it was a cultural explosion. The big three, Ford, GM, and Chrysler, were locked in a brutal horsepower war. Every year they unleashed something louder, faster, and more aggressive. The Dodge Charger, Pontiac GTO, Chevy Chevelle SS, these weren't just vehicles. They were symbols of status, rebellion, and American pride. Muscle cars were affordable, accessible, and unapologetically bold. A working-class kid could walk into a dealership and drive out with a street-legal monster. Cruising down Main Street with a rumbling V8 under the hood, windows down, and music blaring, that was the dream, and for millions it was reality. These machines turned streets into racetracks and drivers into legends. They weren't about practicality, they were about power, presence, and passion. But even at the height of their dominance, dark clouds were forming on the horizon. In 1973, everything changed. The oil crisis sent shockwaves across the nation. Overnight, gas prices soared, and those powerful, fuel-hungry V8 engines that once symbolized freedom suddenly became burdens. Long lines formed at gas stations, people panicked, and practicality replaced passion. But fuel wasn't the only enemy. The US government introduced strict emissions regulations, forcing automakers to choke performance in favor of cleaner air. Suddenly, muscle cars weren't so muscular anymore. Horsepower plummeted, engines shrank. The aggressive styling that once turned heads got softened and smoothed out. And then came the insurance companies. Premiums for high-performance vehicles skyrocketed, making it harder for young drivers, the core of muscle car culture, to even afford them. By the early 1980s, muscle cars were shadows of their former selves. They still existed, in name, but the soul had been stripped out. Performance was no longer king, fuel economy, safety, and emissions were the new order. Car culture didn't disappear, but it changed. The roar gave way to silence, and for many, it felt like the dream was over. But this wasn't the end, not yet. Just the beginning of a long, bumpy ride. Fast forward to the early 2000s and something wild happened. Muscle cars made a comeback. Dodge reintroduced the Challenger, Ford sharpened the Mustang, Chevy brought the Camaro roaring back from the dead. But this wasn't just a nostalgic rebrand. These cars came packed with modern engineering, aggressive styling, and the same raw power that defined the golden era. Suddenly it felt like muscle was back in the spotlight. V8s were cool again. Burnouts, drag races, and rumbling exhausts made their return to American streets. Enthusiasts rejoiced. Car culture felt alive. But under the hood of this resurgence, a storm was brewing. Environmental awareness grew rapidly. The conversation around climate change got louder. Governments around the world announced bold new policies, aiming to phase out internal combustion engines altogether. Meanwhile, electric vehicles, once dismissed as weak and boring, started to evolve fast. Companies like Tesla proved you could have speed and sustainability. So while muscle cars were enjoying a moment, the clock was ticking, and whether fans wanted to admit it or not, the battle between past and future had already begun. Then came Tesla, and everything changed. No need to jump off the highway to avoid all the light thicketing. Suddenly, a quiet, all-electric sedan could obliterate a V8 muscle car at the drag strip. 0 to 60 in under 3 seconds, without a single drop of gas. Performance was no longer exclusive to muscle. The throne had been challenged, and in some ways, taken. Younger generations weren't hanging posters of Camaros and Chargers on their walls, they were scrolling TikTok, dreaming of Teslas, Rivians, or in many cases not dreaming of cars at all. Car culture morphed, social media replaced the street scene, climate concerns replaced horsepower wars, and the industry took notice. In boardrooms across Detroit, automakers weren't talking about cubic inches anymore, they were talking about kilowatts. The Dodge Challenger, ending production. The Camaro, possibly gone for good. Even the Mustang, moving toward hybrid and electric versions. This isn't speculation, it's happening now. The shift isn't coming, it's already here. So is it over? Are muscle cars truly dead? Not exactly, there's still hope. Some brands are exploring electric muscle, cars that keep the aggressive design and torque just without the gas. And hardcore fans? They're keeping the culture alive through restorations, classic car shows, and storytelling. Because muscle was never just about speed, it was about feeling, and that feeling, it's not easy to kill. You may not hear the same roar in the future, but the spirit of muscle, the defiance, the passion, the pride, that could live on. So is this really the end? Or are we on the edge of something new? Maybe muscle cars won't vanish, maybe they'll evolve. Electric motors can deliver torque instantly. What if the next generation of muscle cars doesn't roar, but still rips down the road with soul? One thing's for sure, the love for muscle won't die quietly. The passion, the nostalgia, the identity, it's all still there, waiting to be reignited. So if you're watching this, consider this your call to action. Keep the stories alive, keep the culture alive, because once it's gone, it might never come back. Muscle cars were never just about metal, rubber, or fuel. They were about attitude, about growing up and dreaming big, about standing out, being bold, and never backing down. Maybe the world doesn't need roaring V8 anymore, but maybe we still need what they represent. Freedom, identity, rebellion. And if those values still matter, then maybe, just maybe, muscle cars aren't truly dead. They're just waiting for their next chapter. Whether that's through electric reinvention or a full-blown resurrection of classics, the spirit can live on, but only if we keep it alive. Because once we stop telling these stories, they disappear. And legends like these? They deserve to live forever. If you felt something watching this, hit the subscribe button. Let's make sure the roar doesn't fade.